Talking Business with Beverly. I am your host and business strategist, Beverly Wapauer. And so thank you so much for joining us as we support you, the entrepreneur, in getting the clarity needed in order to create time and financial freedom in your business. And so we do this by not only addressing your business needs, but also your physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, and financial needs as well. And now join me in welcoming. I actually have two guests with me today. So we have Lakeisha Poole. She's a writer and public relations consultant. And then we also have Cleedra Gross. She is a master life coach. Ladies, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And so I have brought you guys on. I want to have a candid conversation about life as an entrepreneur. Because when you're on the outside looking in, especially if you're on social media, everyone has a jet. And we go to Paris every other weekend. So I just brought you guys on because I just want to have this conversation about your journey in entrepreneurship, the highs, the lows, and everything in between. Okay? So you guys agree to have an honest conversation with my viewers?
Yes.
Okay. So Lakeisha, tell us just a little bit more about what you do as a writer and public relations consultant.
So my business is focused on storytelling. I support executives and entrepreneurs in telling their stories, and I also write and publish books. And so my days are long and filled with words, and just making sure that I'm always on the cutting edge of whatever is next as far as a public relations perspective or storytelling perspective. And the thing about public relations, it includes so many different communications tools, and so I have to be well versed in social media and some marketing insights and advertising and all those different elements so that I can bring the best to my clients and customers.
I love it, well-rounded. And so Cleedra, I use the title Master Life Coach. So first of all, tell us what is that, and then tell us a little bit more of what you do.
Sure. So Master Life Coach is 10,000 documented hours with clients.
Okay.
So it's mastery in my field. I believe in that. And so I support primarily women who, I call them achievement junkies. They're achievers, but they're exhausted, and they're also not living their truth. And because a lot of my work involves their thinking, it can be emotional for me too. So I have to make sure that I'm together in order to hold space for them to create their transformation.
That makes sense. Okay. And so now, Cleedra, tell us, how did you get started on this journey to being a life coach? So how did you get started in the entrepreneurial world, and then specifically as a life coach?
So the entrepreneurial bug, my dad owned a grocery store. So when I was 12, I started working.
Oh,
and I loved the freedom that he had to call the shots. So I had the bug early on. But it wasn't until many, many years later that, with my own life unraveling, that I hired a life coach who actually came to our company at the time when I was working in corporate America. And so I didn't even know what a life coach was. And so I hired her, and she changed my entire life. Changed my entire life. And then I wanted to do that. I felt led to do that for other women. And so I started on the side. 10 years ago, I had a full-time job, and I would get up at 3 a.m. to do the work, and I'd go run at 5, and at that time, just trying to lose a lot of weight, get myself together. You will always want to be your first client. I tell any aspiring entrepreneur, you should reflect the transformation that you create in others. And so for years, every vacation, bonus money I got from work was all for the business.
First of all, thank you for sharing. Even we're gonna dive into that too, like when you had to balance the full time of the business, because there are people that are watching that are doing both. Yes. So even sharing that piece of the story, thank you for that. And so, Lakeisha, tell us, how did you end up here on this couch right now? How did you end up when it comes to public relations and the writing part too? Because I want to hear more about that story too.
Right. So I always joke that I self-published my first book in 4th grade. I was 8 years old, and that's when I was introduced to creative writing. I wrote a story, and I sold it for 50 cents to my classmates. And so this has been just a part of my life for so long. And growing up, you always hear about being a starving artist, and I did not want to be a starving artist. And so when I discovered that writing is at the heart of public relations, I was like, ooh, I can write and I can make money from it. And so I studied public relations in school, and I spent 10 years working at various agencies and for various corporate companies. And I decided to go out on my own in 2016, 4th of July weekend. I call it my freedom weekend. And so I've been focused focused full time on PR consulting and writing since 2016.
Wow. And so, Cleedra, are you in your business full time as well?
I'm in my business full time.
Okay, so let's talk about this. Okay. So now, because everyone, like I said, if you go based on social media, everyone has a private jet. So mine is parked out back. Because y'all home after this. So kind of tell us, what does it look like for you? And we know everyone's different, but for you, Lakeisha, what does it look like a day for you, a typical day? What does that look like for you?
There is no typical day. And I think that was the thing that, took some adjusting when I transitioned from being an employee to an owner, in that, when you work in a workplace, the timing, everybody gets there at a certain time, everybody eats lunch. And when I first began my business, I wasn't taking a lunch break because I didn't have those usual signals, those social signals. And so my day really varies from day to day, because public relations is definitely a field where anything can happen, and I have to be prepared to respond to that. I'm excited by the fact that I don't know what's going to happen today. I have some basic tasks that I do in my business every day, so to ensure that I'm generating income and that I'm taking care of the business. But as far as some of the day-to-day happenings, it's always a surprise, a pleasant surprise.
There you go. Look, I said pleasant. But that fake smile, that's pleasant. And so, Cleedra, what about you? What does a typical, I'll put that in quotation marks, what does a typical day look like for you?
I'll say I do my week, my days by the week. So I have focus days, because I've learned the hard way that different parts of my brain work better if I do the same thing that whole day. So when I'm doing client fulfillment, that's all I do on that day. And then I have a networking day. And then I have a day where it's cleaning up the technology, the admin, people on my team, following up. So that took time, because I used to just allow all of those things to happen within one day. But now I have specific days where this is exactly what I'm doing, and it helps me to not feel like exhausted at the end of the day. At least not for that reason.
Yes, exactly.
I may be exhausted for a different reason, but not for that reason.
I love that, and I love how you talk about that. So you have those same days, so you're focused. On Mondays, this is what our focus is.
Monday, Monday. It's always Monday, Monday.
I do the same thing. I have Monday.
Monday, Monday.
Invoices.
It's where I'm pitching myself, it's all about making money.
Making money. Oh, I love that.
That's
So
right.
But I love hearing how we have it set up differently, because I was like you as well. At this chunk of time I was doing this, so it may have been the invoices, and then the next thing, okay, now it's time to pitch, and then the next chunk, and I'm like, you know what, man, I feel like a squirrel running around here trying to
That's right.
So I love hearing that. And so, ladies, we're going to continue this conversation right after these messages. And welcome back to Talking Business with Beverly. And so before the break, we were having a conversation with Lakeisha Poole. She is a writer and public relations consultant, and also Cleedra Gross. She's a master life coach. And so I just wanted to bring them on so we could have a conversation about this entrepreneurial journey and what it really looks like. So we're going to be real and honest about this thing. Okay, so you ladies kind of told us how you got to where you are now, and what a typical, as Lakeisha had been saying, nothing typical about this thing, but a typical day. So what were some, because you touched on this a little bit, Lakeisha, when you said you did not realize, going from being an employee to an entrepreneur. So what were some of the things that you guys had to shift mindset-wise to go from that employee into being an entrepreneur? What were a couple of things you had to shift mindset-wise?
Well, for one thing, you have to really focus on strategy as the business owner. Typically, as an employee, you're doing tactics. This is my chunk of work that I'm responsible for. But when you're the business owner and the entrepreneur, you're responsible for everything. Like, everything falls on your shoulders. I'm the accountant. I'm the marketing person. I do the work. And so in the very beginning phases, that's how it really works. You're doing everything. And then you have to shift to relinquishing some of those things. And so there's just all these different stages of entrepreneurship that working, 9 to 5, it doesn't really prepare you for it. But I will tell you this, when I worked my 9 to 5, I paid attention to things like that. You know, I attended meetings with the CEO, CFO. I wasn't supposed to necessarily be there, but I wanted to know about P&Ls. I wanted to know about the business side, and so I could figure out how to efficiently structure my own business, because entrepreneurship was always on my heart. I did not take those opportunities for granted when I worked. I was all up in business that wasn't mine, because I knew I wanted to start my own business.
Look, she knew when she was selling that book for 50 cents at 8 years old, she knew. But I love what you said, because not everyone thinks that way, to glean as much information as possible from those people that are in those roles. Because like, someone reached out to me the other day, and she's like, oh my God, I hate my job. I'm like, look, what we're gonna do is you're gonna use that, all the opportunities, anytime, if it's event planning, any of that stuff that you can get in. So I love how you said, you know what, it may not be my job, because you know how we quickly say, that's not my job description.
Right.
But just using that to now leverage it into your business. So that makes sense. I love that. So what about you, Clegia? What did you have to shift mindset-wise to go from being the employee to now being the entrepreneur?
Man, how much time do we have?
Look.
There's so much. The first thing I would say is that this idea that if you didn't have your 9 to 5, you'd work so much more in your business is a myth. Because the best training for juggling what you don't want is when you have a 9 to 5 and you're trying to grow your job, because it's a skill. And so the thing that I didn't recognize or appreciate as much as I do now is that this is a skill. And it's a skill that you really need to appreciate. It's not something, it doesn't matter how bright you were in corporate America, it's an entirely different skill set. So value the fact that if juggling a 9 to 5, your family and your side, is the best training. If I had to go back, I would have appreciated those days more, instead of when I get out of this job, and I'm gonna be doing all this, and I had to neck roll, thinking that I would be some other version of myself if I didn't have this 9 to 5. No, you're gonna be the same version, and it's going to expose all of your insecurities. And so, you are so visible as an entrepreneur. So the mindset of just allowing, because I'm a straight A student, so allowing yourself to be less than an A, to have because that's tough for me.
Yes.
So if you're a performer, and usually you're a performer, if you're 9 to 5 and you have a side gig, you're used to accomplishing.
Yes.
Yep. So allowing myself to make some big mistakes publicly was a huge shift for me for an entrepreneur, because I wasn't used to that.
Wow. And that's, when we say do it, even if it's not perfect, just do it. What is it? Better than perfect. Yeah. Yes. And that's one of the biggest things, because you learn a lot, though, even in the failure, and I put that in quotation marks, you learn so much as an entrepreneur, and that allows you to keep going and say, well, okay, that didn't work the way I thought that it would, and to kind of, reevaluate that and then keep going. So, I touched on this a couple of times. I use this word, social media. For you guys, how do you leverage social media in your business? Lakeisha, I this right here, this co-relation.
I think it took me a while to really figure out the best approach for me. Even though I advise other people on social media, I wanted to only focus on certain areas that I felt like would benefit my business. So for me, my social media is for my business. Even if I post personal things or photos of, going to different functions, I've essentially decided to focus on 3 areas on my social media. So I focus on family, faith, and football. Because those are things that I care about, those are things that my audience cares about, and it just gives them a peek inside of my life. And as you know, from a business marketing perspective, it's all about building that know, trust, and like. And so I'm just very strategic about how I use social media.
I love it. And so once again, she said everything is all part of your strategy. Okay, very strategic. Okay, Clegia, what about you? How do you leverage social media in your business?
I'm very similar, and so it's faith, fitness, and family.
There we go.
You see workout pictures and all that. So there's a strategy behind it, because as a life coach, they want to see me doing life. And so I'm also intentional to not just post the highlight reels of my life. Some of the best engagement is when I say, let me show you how I fell on my face. And people love those posts. And so I leverage it by being real. And that's how I think some people become stressful with social media, because they're not being who they are. I'm the same person you see in that little box on Facebook or LinkedIn than if you met me here. And that's why it's not heavy for me.
And I think that's key, you know, just like you said, I love how both of you guys did the 3Fs, but also, you know, what you share. And that's the part where I think sometimes people get caught up in social media where we think it's one thing, especially when it comes to entrepreneurship. And so what Cleandra said, I share the good, the bad, the ugly, like, hey, this didn't work out, this is what it looked like. You know, that allows you people to relate. And just like you said, they see you without, you know, they see you as a life coach, but they see you as a woman and a wife. And you so those pieces right there is showing that human side. That's what people connect with. And so being able to leverage social media, like you can leverage it for that. Of course, it could be the stuff that you do, but those people to me that are entrepreneurs that complain about social media, like you're not leveraging it in a manner that, you know, you use it to build that brand awareness. And so that's huge. And so what I want to do, Lakeisha, tell me one myth, one quick myth when it comes to social media. What was one myth, especially in the entrepreneurial space? What's one myth that you want to dispel when it comes to social media, especially when it comes to building your brand?
Well, and I think it ties closely to what we were just talking about. It's that visual of perfection. And, you know, I even went through a period where I was trying to make sure my boxes were like, this is a picture, and then this is a quote, and then this is a picture. But, you know, for me, and, you know, if you do a little digging into brand archetypes, for my brand archetype, for my customer, they don't necessarily want perfection. They want to see that I'm authentic. They want to see that I'm real. And so you will have picture, and it's not perfect. Mm-hmm. Don't get me wrong. It's strategic and it's organized, and I plan out posts, but I don't want it to look perfect. And you'll never, you know, find that picture of me, I don't know, just me perfectly waking up. I woke up like this.
Woke up like
I never wake up
this
like
right
this.
here? Okay, look, you will not be honest. Okay, look, she said, I did not wake up like this. And so, ladies, we are going to continue this conversation right after these messages. And welcome back to Talking Business with Beverly. And so we're having an amazing conversation, just frank conversation with Lakeisha and Cleandra, just talking about our entrepreneurial journey. And so before the break, Lakeisha shared with us one of the myths when it comes to this online space. So Cleandra, what is one myth that you want to dispel right now for the viewers?
When you read, I made 7 figures with this webinar, or I lost 50 pounds with this so-and-so, I want you to know that wasn't their first time. I'm not going to say that they didn't do it. Mm-hmm. However, what I can confidently say is that wasn't the first time they did it. Mm-hmm. So don't beat yourself up. That could be like the 100th time. Remember, it's the highlight reel. Mm-hmm. And so you have to really understand that this is an iterative process. It's every iteration, and I call it productive failure, meaning it produced something. You know, exactly. Unproductive failure is when you just sit on the couch. It's not producing anything. So that's the one thing I would say.
I love it. I love it. And so tell me, Cleandra, what do you love most about what you do?
I love changing people's lives. And because they change the world. I mean, that's my impact. It's a ripple effect. When a woman steps into her power and her purpose, her voice is one that she'll reach people that they don't want to hear my voice. And I love that. You know, she can carry it. That's what I love.
Yes. What about you, Lakeisha?
It's the same thing. It's that transformation. It's that moment where, you know, for me, my gift is writing, and so it comes easier to me. And for a long time, I took it for granted. I thought everybody could write like this. And so when I'm engaging with that customer and that client, and they read something I wrote and they say, no changes, oh my God, this sounds just like me. And just being able to capture their voice and get what they're trying to say, because a lot of people, they have the knowledge, they have the expertise, they just don't know how to communicate it in a clear and concise and compelling manner. And so just the ability to use my natural, easy to me gift to bring that out to someone else, it's like the first time, every time it happens.
Yes, and that's part of, to me, even like entrepreneurship, like knowing your lane. For me, I'm not the writer. Look, I can get on video and talk all day long. So I'm like, hey, Lakeisha, look, I need you to make this pretty. But yeah, just knowing my lane and being able to then say, hey, you know, I'm good at this. I'm really good at this, especially as an entrepreneur, especially as females. I think sometimes we get caught up in, oh my God, that's not humble if I say I'm good at this. No, I'm good at what I do, and it's okay to say it. but then also knowing those things where, hey, you know what, this is not my strength, so let me go and get some support with that. And so let's talk now, because I just brought up the topic of ladies, of women, collaboration and networking. What role does that play in your business? So how do you network? How do you collaborate with others in your business, Lakeisha?
It's been amazing because I didn't mention this when I was talking about social media, but that has been where I have formed some of the best relationships. I have clients that I met in a Facebook group like 8 years ago. I get work from it. I get referrals. The thing about entrepreneurship that I wasn't really prepared for was how isolating it is. Like when I worked in the office, I thought, oh, I get by myself and I set it up how I want.
No.
But you miss being able to bounce ideas off of each other and just having that creative environment. And so it's nice to have Facebook groups or LinkedIn groups where I can connect with people that know PR. They know my language. They know exactly the challenge I'm going through. And so I can, connect with them in that way and also just stay in the loop about what's happening in the industry. So social media is actually a go-to for my network.
Thank you. So social media is not the devil. Stop saying that. And so Cleja, I know Cleja, she's the queen of networking. So I want to talk to you about how you leverage networking in your business.
When I was working full time, it was all social media because I just didn't have the physical time. But now I am a heavy offline networker. You're absolutely right. And I do it, I do it as how can I connect someone? When you network with the posture of how can I help Lakeisha? So when I meet people, I'm not thinking, are they a client? I instantly think, Beverly, what is it that you need? And that is why I believe my network has exploded, and it has been a boomerang to help my business. Because if you help enough people get what they want, you will have more than what you want. And so that's why networking is fun for me, because I love to serve.
But I love what you said is that your attitude of how you go into that.
Attitude.
And that's one thing that I always say. I'm like, as entrepreneurs, we need to start running up on people and automatically say, oh my God, it's a client. I'm like, no, I say the 3 C's. I say either they may be a potential client, maybe. It might be a potential collaboration. We might be able to partner in something, or just like you said, I may be able to connect you with her. And so I think when we take that one-sided lens off, they go to a networking event, here's my business card. You get that card out of my face. No. So that type of thing. So I love how you go in with that attitude of it's not what's in it for me.
Exactly.
It's like, how can I connect? How can I? And so you said as a result of that, how has that impacted your business?
Well, it is the principle of sewing. So, and nothing violates that.
Yes.
And so when my intention is to sew into a woman, it may not come back from that woman. But just like yesterday, I landed a speaking engagement and it was like 3 separations. I don't even know this person I talked to. And she was like, send me an invoice. And that's how it happens. And it wasn't a small one. But I know with everything in me that the principle of sowing works.
Yes.
And when you sow with the intention and you cultivate that seed, you can take it to the bank, literally.
Yes, literally cash this thing.
You will be able to cash it. Right? Yeah.
I love that. And so, just very quickly, Lakeisha, I want you to look at the viewer, that person that's on the fence about going into entrepreneurship. What would be one thing that you would tell that person, when as they're contemplating taking that leap into entrepreneurship?
I know it's scary. I know it's uncertain, but it is so worth it. Your leap into entrepreneurship is tied to someone else's destiny. And I think that's one of the things that we've talked a lot about today is how everything is connected. And there are people who are waiting for you to use the gifts that God gave you in a way that is going to save their lives, change their children's lives. Like this isn't just a one generation thing. And so it's not just about finances. We are really about transforming lives for the better of all of us.
Yes. And ladies, believe it or not, we are out of time.
Oh,
so, look, Cleja, let us know, how can we find out more information about you? What's your email, your social media handle?
Sure, it's Cledra.com, CLEDRA.com. That's everything.
Oh, there we go. Keep it simple. And what about you?
I'm easy too. I'm Lakeisha Poole, LakeishaPoole.com, and that's how I am on all my social channels as well.
Awesome. Ladies, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And thank you as well for joining in as well. And remember, as entrepreneurs, you want to ensure that you're addressing your business, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, and financial needs as well. Until next time, take care.